Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book Nook, and today we're talking about Emily Henry's latest release, Happy Place. Honestly, I feel like this is one of the most highly anticipated book releases of this entire year, especially for people that are deeply in the book community. I feel like it's all I've been hearing about for the last 4 to 6 months, and especially now that it's out, it is the only thing I'm seeing on my feed. Everyone is talking about it, it seems. Everybody's reading it, and I understand why. Emily Henry is kind of like the queen of the book world right now. One of the just like reigning authors that is an auto-buy author for so many people, including myself. So I obviously knew when this book came out, I was gonna have to get my hands on it right away. Practically at midnight on release date, I was like, I am reading this. Let's see how it goes. I was very, very interested in what it was gonna be about. And I have to say, it's not what I expected. Anybody that has watched my channel for any amount of time has probably heard me talk about People We Meet on Vacation one time or another, or maybe 1,000. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's kind of this book that started my love for this very particular trope and type of writing, and ever since I read it, I've just been searching for the feeling that I got the first time that I read it, and I was really happy to discover once I started Happy Place that it was really like a 2.0 version of People We Meet on Vacation, or like People We Meet on Vacation's older, more mature sister. They really had a lot of similarities to them, but also Happy Place was so different, and I have a whole lot of things I want to say about it, a lot of thoughts. I feel so weird not having it in my hands. For whatever reason, the book was only released in hardback, and I am a known hardback hater. They're bulky, they take up too much room on my bookshelf, they hurt my arms when I hold them, they're expensive. I just hate everything about hardbacks, and I don't know why it was only released in hardback when Emily Henry is known for her amazing floppy paperbacks, but I refused to buy it in hardback, so I read it on my Kindle. So I'm gonna have nothing in my hands while I'm talking about it today, so please bear with me. Makes me feel a little out of my comfort zone, but anyways, yeah, I'm gonna do my usual thing where I just give you guys a simple sort of spoiler-free synopsis with my very basic thoughts on the book, and then at some point I will say, this is where spoilers are gonna begin. If you haven't read it yet, please exit and then come back and we can chat about it a little bit more. But yeah, I got a lot to say, so let's just get into it. So Happy Place centers around this group of 6 friends. The main part of the group met in college. They all lived together in this house, and over time, the group kind of grew. Other people were brought into it, but it really just formed this one big happy family. These 6 people are all very different, but together they just like fill in all the gaps and holes, and they are just like one big heart. They love each other so much. And you know, they met in college, like I said, but over time now they've grown up and they still are so close. They've made it a tradition that every single summer they go and spend time together at this lake house that one of the friends owns. It's basically like this mansion. She has a very wealthy family, and they've just made it a tradition that no matter what they're doing, no matter what's going on in their lives, like with their crazy jobs, they always meet up at this place once a year, and it is kind of their happy place. It is where they have their vacation time. It's where they reconnect. It's where they just step away from life and feel like themselves again. And you know, this friend group has a lot of nuances to it. There are, you know, over time, people have become more than friends within the group. There is this couple, these 2 people that are lawyers, and then there is this girl that has brought in another girl to the group that they are now together, they are partners. And then there are our main 2 characters, which is Harriet and Wynne. And Harriet and Wynne are a couple as well. They have been a couple for the last 8 years. They've actually been engaged for the last couple of years, but what the rest of the friend group does not know is that the 2 of them have actually broken up. They've been broken up for about 5 months now, and nobody knows it but them. And now it is time for their annual vacation once again, where they're all gonna have to be together in this house, spend time together, and nobody knows that the 2 of them are not together. So this is basically like a fake dating sort of story, but with a very particular twist, because it's fake dating between a couple that has been together for nearly a decade but has now separated, and they're having to fake that they're still together for their friends. Neither one of them were really dying to go on this trip, especially together this year, but they can't get around it. They can't hide from their friends. And there's also something very special about this trip this year. It is actually the last trip that they're ever going to be able to have, because the girl whose family owns this house is actually selling it. It is out of her control. So yes, they can come back to this same, you know, place that they stay, but it's not going to be the same house. It's just never going to be the same again. So they cannot miss out on this trip. They cannot miss out on this last memory with this friend group, this sort of last hurrah, and neither one of them wants to ruin it for the rest of the group by bringing them down, by confessing that the two of them are not together. So this obviously sounds like a very complicated situation. Obviously a lot is going to come with it, with, you know, them thinking that they are still together. Some things like sharing a room, having couple experiences together, having to, you know, keep up the touchy-feely nature that the two of them would normally have in front of their friends. So yeah, this is basically one big hot mess waiting to happen. And what is so interesting about this story is that obviously we see present day, you know, we meet this couple right off the bat. We see that the two of them have broken up. There's clearly a lot of tension between them, a lot of anger. The two of them do not want to be around each other at all, but they are forced to be around each other. And you see that, you know, clearly like, okay, they're not happy. They don't want to be together. Like, this is just a couple that has broken up. But then, in the Emily Henry way that I love, we flash back to the past and we see the very first time these two people met. You see once Wynn really joins their friend group, you see their relationship slowly kind of bloom. They are a part of this friend group, so they don't want to cross that line. They don't want to be more than friends and mess up what is going on here. But you see kind of throughout the years, as the story is flashing between the present and the past, you see the two of them eventually break the rules, obviously, and get together, become more, fall in love. You see their relationship bloom. You see them be so happy and so in love and really just being what the other person needs. They're two very different people with very different mindsets and goals and things that make them happy, but they work together so well. And while you're reading this story, you can't help but wonder, like, why are these two not together? Like, what could have possibly caused them to break up? But obviously, as time goes on, as we continue to flash back, you do see what ultimately does cause them to break up, and that kind of brings you back to the present day where they are forced to confront it all, while also trying to keep it from their friend group and try to have a good time and try to just have their one last moment at this house together that they love so much. And obviously things are going to come to a head. Lots of things are going to come out, not just with this main couple, but with the whole friend group. And oh my gosh, this book really had a lot to it. It was a lot heavier than Emily Henry's other books. It touched on a lot of issues, just about every issue that you can imagine having within relationships, friendships, life, you know, life decisions, what makes you happy, what's really most important, and how, you know, two people can love each other, but that doesn't mean that, you know, it's necessarily right, or they can be the right person, but maybe it's not the right time, or just because something makes you feel good doesn't mean that it's good for you. And you know, it's just about growing up and friendships and what happens to those over time and how life gets in the way and how, you know, people grow apart and how people's priorities change. And it's really just about growing up and love and friendship and life. And I really, really liked it. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of People We Meet on Vacation, obviously with the sort of like flashback, flash forward sort of element, and also the kind of friends to lovers sort of thing. But I felt like this book was easily Emily Henry's best written book to date. Like, she really just hit on every single point that just pulled at your heartstrings. It really was, like I said, pretty heavy when you find out what happens between these two people. It hurts. It kind of punches you in the heart. I will say, whenever you got to the point where you find out what happens between them, I think when it's a book, you expect something really dramatic and you're like, oh, what could have possibly happened? But when you see what happens between the two of them, you know, I was a little like, oh really? Like, it wasn't quite what I expected. But as I sat there and thought about it, you know, it was just so realistic. The story felt really raw and real. And as much as we love stories that just make our jaw drop and we love the drama and we're like, oh my gosh, how did this happen between the two of you? So much of real relationship issues has to just do with miscommunication and lack of, you know, being honest and open about your feelings and what you're going through and looking after yourself as much as you're looking after the other person in the relationship. And that was really what this book was about, and it was so real. And you know, as I read it, as it continued, as you know, things came to a head, and as you saw what this friend group really is having to go through and what they are battling individually but also with each other, I just thought it was really, really great. It had some very heavy parts, like I continue to say. It definitely made me think a lot. It definitely hurt my head, hurt my heart at times, but in the end I really, really liked it. I was super impressed with it. Like I said, I think it is the best book that she has written so far, and I was really impressed that she chose to write this book and chose to write it in the way that she did, because honestly I think it's gonna be kind of polarizing. I've really done a good job of not looking at anybody's reviews of this book because I just wanted to go into it completely blind. I didn't want to have any sort of like notion of what the general public was thinking about it, but I feel like people are either going to love this book or they're going to hate it, because I think a lot of people go to Emily Henry looking for these just like summery, vibey, happy, quirky books. And do not get me wrong, there were definitely parts of this book that, you know, were quirky. There was a lot of quirky dialogue. There was some fluff here and there. There were parts that felt kind of slow to me. I really felt like in the beginning you are introduced to the whole friend group and it's a lot of information thrown at you at once. There's 6 people here and you have to understand, you know, who each of the people are, how they connect, the relationships between each of them, what they all do, you know, the history between everybody. So that felt like a lot of information. I was kind of like, whoa, I don't know if I'm gonna be into this. But then once you got past that, I was so sucked in the first third. I could not put it down. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much tension here. There's so much angst. I gotta know what happened. And then there definitely got to some parts where it was like a little fluffy, you know, it was like talking about what the friends were doing while they're on vacation and just a lot of dialogue and conversation, which Emily Henry, like, that's really her thing. She's good with her quirky dialogue, which to me at times can be like a bit much. I like it to a certain extent, but I don't love like a ton of fluff. I kind of like when we more focus on the story and like scenes have a purpose, but obviously some of it here and there is fine. But yeah, I'm just saying I felt like it got a little bit slow towards the middle for me, and then kind of right after the middle it jumped right into it and it got to a point again where I just could not put it down because everything started to kind of like come out and come to a head. But yeah, I think that there are going to be people that don't love this book. I kind of think it's one of those where if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. Like, some people really enjoy books that make you think about life and make you kind of question everything and really touch on these tough, real issues and, you know, make you leave the book just with a new outlook and just make you think about things. And other people just want light and fluffy, happy romance books that distract them from all of those things and don't make them think about that. And I think that's what Emily Henry's kind of known for. I feel like especially her latest book, Book Lovers, it definitely did deal with some real life issues. The main character in this book was super strong, kind of honestly really similar to Happy Place. I feel like the main character, the main female character in this story was also very strong, very career focused and independent sort of woman. But this book to me was very much kind of unironically Hallmark movie-esque. It was very fluffy, it was very cozy. You just kind of wanted to like wrap up in a blanket and read it, and it was just very happy. Like, nothing about this book made me sad, and I think people loved it for that reason. But Happy Place is gonna pull at the heartstrings. It's gonna probably make you tear up at times. It's gonna make you go, shit. Like, you know, it's just one of those books where your heart will kind of drop a few times. And if that's not what you're expecting, if it's not what you're looking for, if you're picking it up thinking like, oh my gosh, this is such a cute like summery book, look, they're all jumping in the water and having a good time, like this is just a good little beach read and it's not gonna make me feel any type of emotions that are negative, you'll probably be a little bit taken aback, just like I was, because I kind of figured it was gonna be a happy-go-lucky fluffy book. But in the end, I did really like it. I have to be honest, I liked it a lot, but I don't know that I would reread it. Like, in my mind, again, I think it's her best written book, but when it comes to like pure enjoyment level, a book that I would reread 100 times over, I think People We Meet on Vacation is still my favorite of her books. Yeah, like I can confidently say that. I really liked Happy Place. I'm sure I will buy the paperback when it does become available, which I would like that to be soon. But People We Meet on Vacation just holds like this really special place in my heart, and it's not gonna go anywhere, and I will continue to read Emily Henry's books. But yeah, that's my review. It's definitely Nikki's Book Nook approved. So I would definitely recommend you guys go and read it. But now at this point, I would like to get into a little more specific details and give some spoilers. So if you have not yet read this book, now I would like you to exit and then come back once you have read it so we can have our little book club moment. So, like we all know and like we've all discussed, this book follows Harriet and Win. And Harriet and Win are two very different people, right? Harriet is a surgeon. She is a career woman. She's really spent her entire life dedicated to this idea that she wants to be a surgeon, and she's just been so focused. Her parents have been so proud of her, and this has been the thing that they have been so proud of her for. It's what she's put all of her time, effort, and money into, where Win has never really felt like he had a purpose in the way that Harriet has. He has always kind of had this like deep sort of insecurity to him, where he knows that, you know, he's got a good personality, he's interesting, girls like him, but he just doesn't really feel like he has anything to offer. And that was something that was so sad and so interesting to experience, like that dynamic of their relationship, where, you know, Harriet loves Win and she thinks that he is everything, but in his mind, like, he's just never enough, and he's especially never enough for her. And, you know, as things come out about their relationship, as you see more about them, you see them fall in love, like they really do have like this incredible chemistry, this back and forth. Their banter had me like kicking my feet and giggling. Oh my gosh, those like first few chapters of them meeting for the first time, sharing that room together, I was like losing my mind. I loved it. I loved them. I thought they were just like so cute. But as their relationship goes on and you see more of these flashbacks, you learn a lot more about them. Win is very close to his family. They mean everything to him, where Harriet has a very different type of relationship with her family. You know, like we've said, her parents are very proud of her, but they're proud of her for her accomplishments. They're not really proud of her just for her. And they don't, you know, she has this sister that is a cosmetologist, and her parents are super disappointed by that. They don't think that she's doing anything amazing, so therefore she's kind of like a footnote in their lives. And her parents kind of have this relationship that isn't very loving, and they're not a household that has ever been very loving, where Win's family is just so close, so happy. All their holidays are just spent together, the best of times. And you know, Win has a lot of attachment to his home, to Montana, where he's from, where Harriet, like, she doesn't really care where she is, because family is not a big factor in her life. So it's just so interesting, because this book just, again, it was so real, it was so raw. It really touches on relationships and how complicated they are, and how many factors are involved in finding, you know, like a suitable partner for your life. It's kind of funny. I'm not old or wise by any means, but you know, I'm like 25, but I feel like the older I get, the more you realize that there's so much more to love, to relationships, to friendships, to everything than just like chemistry and just getting along. Like, especially when it comes to finding a life partner, there's just so much about, you know, what you want and what your goals are and what makes you happy and what are your values and like where you want to be. And you know, you can obviously find like compromises in relationships, but you really have to find someone that is on the same page as you and that wants the same things, because you don't want to, like, you know, to some extent, yes, your partner can be your happiness, but they can't be all your happiness. You can't just like throw your whole life away to go and, you know, put everything into this person and what they want and what makes them happy. Like, you have to find some middle ground. And this book really touched on that, you know, Win and Harriet love each other so much, but like, she is in the process of becoming a surgeon. Like, she's in her residency, and a lot comes with that. That's like a decade-long commitment of going to school and then, you know, doing her residency at a hospital, and her life is in San Francisco. That's where she has to be, and that's where she has to be to finish this career. But that is not the place that makes Win happy. Win wants to be at home with his family. He loves Montana. He loves, you know, the quiet sort of life. And especially once we learn that his father passes away and his mother is going through medical issues, like, he just knows that that's where he needs to be, even though Harriet is his everything. Like, she can't be his absolutely everything. And so that's when their relationship really goes awry and things get complicated. And, you know, Harriet is faced with this, you know, realization of, I have to be here and he has to be there, and what, like, she wants him more than anything, but she just really doesn't know how to express her feelings. And Win has this like deep guilt about feeling like, you know, he doesn't even want to suggest the idea of taking Harriet away from her accomplishments. Like, he thinks that she is a genius and so much better than him and so out of his league. And, you know, she doesn't feel that way at all. Like, she feels like he's amazing, and she has no, like, she doesn't feel in any way that Win should like be a surgeon or that he needs to be a lawyer or a doctor. She has always seen him as an equal, but he has never felt that way. And that really is like the kind of like miscommunication part of their relationship, and what kind of ultimately leads them to going their separate ways is they're spending so much time apart. And, you know, Harriet feels bad and doesn't want to like tell him that she misses him or wishes he was here, because she knows that he's dealing with all these family issues and she doesn't want to take him away from that. And then also Win is like not wanting to take her away from, oh, hello Draco, going to join the conversation. Win does not want to take Harriet away from her job and what she's worked so hard for. And so that's what makes these two kind of split apart. And this whole book, as you're learning this, I'm like, oh my God, like I got to a point where I was like, I don't think these two are gonna work it out. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen, because I mean, she's a doctor and she can't leave San Francisco, and his life is now in Montana, and as much as she loves him, as much as they love each other, sometimes that's not enough. And I really thought that was the direction the book was gonna go in, and I thought it was still gonna have like a happy sort of ending. Are you trying to make a little guest appearance? I thought it was still gonna have like a happy sort of ending, where the two kind of like found themselves and found each other. And even though they love each other, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be together, but that's not how it ended. And I did think that was a little interesting, because I felt like the book, like I've said so many times, was so raw and so real, and I really thought that was the way it was gonna go. But it did end up kind of having that like bit of a Hallmark movie, like happy ending, run to each other at the airport. I don't even want to be a doctor. Like, I don't even like my job. I'm not happy. All I want is you. I have to say I was a little bit caught off guard by that, because I never felt like there was any indication that she didn't like her job or that she didn't like being a surgeon. Like, I know obviously Win is her, you know, what makes her the happiest, and she wants to be with him, and she kind of loves the idea of being in Montana, but that's just not going to work with her job. But I was caught a little bit off guard by her sudden, like, I think I hate my job. Because I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't see that. And her kind of going to now be a pottery maker. I feel like the whole point of the pottery aspect of the book was that that was her sort of just like hobby that like takes her away from things and takes her out of her work. And I didn't think that was going to become her entire work. So I don't know, I was a little bit caught off guard by the ending. And I felt like it was so different than Book Lovers, because what I loved so much about this book, honestly, because Book Lovers, I liked it. It wasn't like my favorite book I ever read, but I did like it. And what I really liked about it and what really saved it for me was I loved that the ending of this book was not like a traditional romance book. I loved that Nora wasn't like, screw it, I'm gonna stay in this small little town that is, you know, nothing like what I want or where I come from or what I've worked so hard for, and I'm just gonna give it all up and I'm gonna be with you. I loved that Nora stuck to her guns, and that she, you know, she's worked so hard for her career. She's a city girl. She wants to be in the city, and that is what she's gonna do. And I love that Charlie agreed with that and was, you know, going to be there for her, and that they were going to live their lives out of this small little Hallmark town and go back to the city and be together. And, you know, she didn't want to have kids and just be the traditional rom-com kind of story of like married and kids and whatever in small town. She wanted to live her big city corporate girl life. And I just loved that the ending was just not what you expected, and it wasn't like the typical ending where, I don't know, I felt like Happy Place, the whole book was kind of the not what you were expecting, but then the end was still that like typical rom-com-y Hallmark movie kind of moment. So I don't know, I kind of had like mixed feelings about that. It didn't like ruin the book for me, but it definitely left me thinking like, huh, like that's just not what I expected. But yeah, overall, like I thought again that it dealt with so many realistic issues. It had a lot of good like representation about like mental health issues and just general representation of what people go through in life. And, you know, relationships were a big part of it, but friendships, like I really love books that talk about friendships, because friendships are so nuanced and it's so tough. Like the older you get, the more busy you get in life. Like you have these friends that just mean so much to you, but you know, life gets busy and it's hard to see each other as much as you would like. And obviously when you're not talking to someone as often as you used to, you can kind of grow apart. And we really see that with this friendship group, and we see, you know, what all of them have kind of gone through and what they are going through. There was kind of like a little blow up with the friend group where you have Cleo and Kimmy that are over here. They run this farm, they live this very busy lifestyle, and they have also, I guess, been trying to get pregnant throughout, you know, the last several months, which we don't find out till the end of the book. And that's why, you know, Cleo and Kimmy didn't want Sabrina and Parth to come and visit, because they have baby stuff all over the place. They've also just been stressed and busy, and, you know, Sabrina is this very like type A person that, you know, you're supposed to kind of find annoying. Like, I feel like throughout the story you're supposed to get like kind of annoyed at her, that she wants everything a certain way, and she has a schedule and an itinerary, and she wants everybody to do what she wants to do. But you really, as you get to know her more, you realize that like she's doing it completely out of love. Like, she cares so much about her friends and about this friend group and about keeping them all together, that this is how she shows her love. And Sabrina is someone that I really liked, you know. You can kind of feel like she's overbearing and like, oh, she's trying to force everyone to get tattoos, and she, you know, forced Wynn to come on this vacation, even though we find out after the fact that she actually knew that Wynn and Harriet had broken up. And but that's just how she shows that she cares, and she just wants all of her friends to be happy and be together and be in this place. And we know that she's had a lot of like family issues and kind of issues of like abandonment, and, you know, she's had a lot of like mother figures in and out of her life. So yeah, she was an interesting character, and I kind of liked seeing the journey of her and learning more about her and seeing where she ended up, and her whole like relationship with Parth, and how she never wanted to get married, but then because she was scared, because she's seen her dad get married like 5 different times, but accepting that, you know, it's not going to be the same for her, and that she loves him. Like, I thought that was all very sweet. And then yeah, Kimmy and Cleo, I feel like, are the only kind of two that I felt a little bit like, not that their story didn't get completed, but I just didn't feel like I knew a ton about them by the end. I thought the kind of drop of like, oh, we're pregnant, was like a little bit random, especially after the whole conversation of them being like, we're not gonna get married, which you don't like have to be married to have a kid, but I don't know, I just thought it like, I very much caught me off guard when that was the whole reason that she had been kind of stressed out, and why she didn't want Sabrina to visit and all of that. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. Like I said, I feel like 5 times now, I thought it was so well written. I think that this book clearly had like the most thought put into it, the most heart put into it. There was just so much to it, and it just touched on so many really relevant issues that kind of made my heart hurt a little bit. But yeah, I don't think I would read it again, but you know, I'll sit here and read People We Meet on Vacation a million times over, and I will be waiting for Emily Henry's next release. I'm very interested to see what she does next, because obviously now she's written 4 books in a row that are very much like summer vibes, cozy vibes. Like, she is kind of known for being the author that writes the fluffy summer rom-coms. So I'm interested to see if that's what she sticks with, if she sticks with this same sort of like theme and color scheme and vibe for all of her books, or if she kind of goes a different direction. I almost feel like Happy Place would be a good transition into her getting into some other type of vibes. I feel like she kind of leaned a little bit more in the Taylor Jenkins Reid direction with Happy Place, which Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author of all time. She just has a way of making me feel things, and I feel like Emily Henry was really trying to make people feel things with this book, and I think she did a good job of it. I would be interested to see her do it more. But yeah, guys, if you read Happy Place, I would love to know all your thoughts down below. I would love to know what your favorite Emily Henry book is. If you have any predictions for what you think she might do next. I kind of want to see Emily Henry write an actual enemies to lovers book. I know Beach Read is like enemies to lovers. You guys know my thoughts on Beach Read if you've watched me for a long time. Like I've said, love Emily Henry, wasn't a fan of Beach Read, and I know that book is kind of marketed as an enemies to lovers, but in my mind it really kind of wasn't. And I would love to see Emily Henry write a legit enemies to lovers. Like, she's good at the tension, she's good at the angst. I feel like Book Lovers as well was kind of supposed to be enemies to lovers too, but I want like angry. I want straight up, we are rivals, I can't stand you, I don't want to be in the same room as you, to lovers. Like, I think with her banter she can do it, and that's what I would really like to see. I think that would be fun. But yeah, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.